Let's talk about divorce. It's a word that carries a lot of weight, right? In this explainer, we're going to break it all down. The legal journey, the tough decisions, and what life looks like after the papers are signed, all based on our source material. Our source material starts us off with this really powerful metaphor. And this idea that divorce cuts both ways is absolutely central. It's a process that deeply, deeply impacts everyone involved. And, the path forward is rarely simple for anyone. So that two-edged sword thing, it really represents the two big sides of divorce we're going to explore. First, there's the very real human cost. We're talking financial and emotional. And second, there's the structured legal path you actually have to walk to officially move on. Okay, before we dive into the nitty-gritty, let's just set some expectations. This whole legal journey, it demands both financial readiness and a whole lot of patience. That timeline can really vary, sometimes wildly, depending on just how many issues the two people need to work through. To get through that journey, you first have to kind of speak the language. So let's start with some foundational vocabulary. Seriously, understanding these key legal terms is the very first step to making sense of the entire process. All right, first things first. What even is a divorce, legally speaking? Well, at its core, it's the official procedure used to formally end a marriage. You can think of it like dissolving a legal contract. It's what allows both people to be recognized as single again. Now, you've probably heard of an annulment, right? Well, that's something totally different. While a divorce ends a marriage that was legally valid, an annulment is a declaration that the marriage was never legally valid to begin with, maybe for reasons like fraud or something similar. Okay, so this is a huge fork in the road. The path your divorce takes really depends on whether it's contested or uncontested. Uncontested is pretty straightforward. Both people agree on all the major terms. But a contested divorce? That's when they can't agree, and a judge has to step in and make the final calls. All right, now that we've got the basic lingo down, let's move on to what is, let's be honest, often the most critical and emotionally charged part of this entire process: figuring out the arrangements for the children. In the eyes of the court, there is one guiding principle that overrides absolutely everything else: the best interest of the child. Every single decision, from where the child lives to their health care, legally has to be based on this standard. It's the North Star of family court. Now, it's so important to know that custody isn't just one thing. It's actually split into two main types. You've got legal custody, which is all about decision-making, who gets to decide on big things like schooling and medical care. Then there's physical custody, which is about where the child actually lives day to day. And then within both of those categories, legal and physical, the court can award arrangements in one of two ways: joint or sole. Joint custody means the parents share the responsibility, and that's what courts often prefer. Sole custody means one parent holds that specific responsibility all by themselves. Okay, so once the plan for the kids is starting to take shape, the focus naturally shifts to the financial side of things. And this covers everything from dividing property and debts to figuring out ongoing support. Now, when it comes to child support, you might think a judge just picks a number out of a hat, but nope. To keep things as fair and predictable as possible, states use very specific formulas and guidelines that are written right into the law. And here's a perfect example of how that works in the real world. Let's look at Texas. The law there sets specific percentages based on what they call the non-custodial parents' net resources. That's basically their income after taxes. And as you can see, the percentage goes up with the number of children. It's a structured approach designed to make things consistent. But spousal support, or what you might know as alimony, that's a whole different ballgame. It is not automatic. Instead, a court has to weigh a whole bunch of factors, like how long the marriage lasted and what each person is capable of earning, to decide if support is needed, and if so, for how long. So, the judge's final decree is issued, the papers are all signed, but that is not the end of the story, especially for parents. In so many ways, it's really the beginning of a brand new chapter, one that requires a completely new way of relating to each other. And this brings us to the ongoing job of co-parenting, which is probably best understood through a set of rights that belong to the child, not the parents. We're talking about the right to stability, to love from both parents, and the absolute freedom to not be caught in the middle of adult problems. So, how do you actually navigate this new reality? Well, the source material suggests a really practical, almost business-like approach. The critical shift is moving from being romantic partners to being functional parenting partners, where every single decision is all about the child's well-being. If you take away just one crucial point from all this, let it be this simple fact. While the marriage contract can be dissolved, the bond and the legal obligation of being a parent, that's permanent. And that leaves us with a final question to really think about. The legal contract ends, but that parenting bond doesn't. A court can finalize the divorce, but only the parents can truly build what comes next for their children. So how do you do it?